My life, from the outside, resembled a meticulously crafted painting, a masterpiece of success, stability, and love. Alexander was the artist, meticulously arranging each element. My canvas was my life with Elena, my wife. She was, or so I believed, the perfect complement to my driven nature. Beautiful, poised, socially adept, she was the embodiment of grace. Our home, a sprawling estate nestled in the hills overlooking the city, was a testament to our combined achievements. The manicured lawns, the gleaming marble, the carefully curated art collection, every detail spoke of refined taste and comfortable affluence. We hosted elegant dinners, attended exclusive galas, our social circle a constellation of influential and successful individuals. Elena was always the radiant center of these gatherings, her laughter echoing through the halls, her smile captivating all who beheld it. I, in my pride, believed I had created this idyllic world, this perfect symphony of success and happiness. My business, a tech company I had built from the ground up, was thriving. Long hours, relentless dedication, and a certain ruthlessness had propelled me to the top. I was a force to be reckoned with in the corporate world, respected, if not always liked. Elena, while not directly involved in the business, was my constant support. She understood the demands of my work, the late nights, the constant travel. She was my anchor, my safe harbor in the turbulent seas of the business world. Or so I thought. Our marriage, on the surface, was everything I could have asked for. We shared laughter, intimate conversations, and a comfortable companionship. We traveled the world together, exploring exotic locales, indulging in luxurious experiences. We celebrated anniversaries with extravagant gestures, reaffirming our commitment to each other. I believed, with an almost naive certainty, that our bond was unbreakable. I trusted Elena implicitly, never once questioning her loyalty or devotion. Our life together was a carefully constructed narrative, a story of two people perfectly matched, living a life of idyllic bliss. It was a narrative I had come to believe wholeheartedly. It was, I would soon discover, a carefully constructed illusion, a gilded cage, concealing a truth so devastating it would shatter the very foundations of my existence. The painting, I would learn, was a forgery, and the artist, I would come to realize, was a master of deception. The first crack in the facade appeared subtly, almost imperceptibly. It wasn't a grand, dramatic event, but a small, seemingly insignificant detail that snagged my attention. Elena had left her phone on the kitchen counter, something she rarely did. I noticed a notification pop up, a message from an unknown number. I didn't intend to pry, but the message was partially visible. "Can't wait to see you tonight, my love." The casual endearment, the secrecy of the unknown number. It sparked a flicker of unease within me. I dismissed it as quickly as it came. Elena had many friends, business associates. It could be anyone. I told myself I was being paranoid, that my long hours and stressful work were making me imagine things. But the seed of doubt had been planted. I started to observe Elena more closely, scrutinizing her behavior, searching for any telltale signs of infidelity. It was like a switch had been flipped in my mind. Suddenly, everything she did seemed suspicious. Her late-night calls, which she attributed to work, now seemed to carry a different weight. Her frequent outings with friends, which I had always encouraged, now filled me with a gnawing anxiety. I noticed subtle changes in her demeanor, a certain restlessness, a faraway look in her eyes, a subtle shift in her mood when I came home late from work. I tried to rationalize these observations, to convince myself that I was overreacting. But the unease persisted, growing stronger with each passing day. It was like a low hum in the background, a constant reminder that something was not right. I found myself becoming more withdrawn, less engaged in our conversations. I felt a growing distance between us, a sense of disconnect that I couldn't explain. Elena noticed the change in me, of course. She asked if everything was all right, if something was bothering me. I brushed her concerns aside, telling her I was just stressed from work. I couldn't bring myself to voice my suspicions, to admit the gnawing fear that was consuming me. I was afraid of what I might discover, afraid of shattering the illusion of our perfect life. But the whispers of doubt grew louder, more insistent, threatening to drown out the voice of reason. I knew, deep down, that I couldn't ignore them any longer. I had to find out the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The weight of my suspicions became unbearable. I couldn't continue living in this state of uncertainty, this constant gnawing anxiety. I needed answers. I considered confronting Elena directly, but I knew she would deny everything. She was too skilled at deception, too adept at weaving a believable narrative. I needed proof, irrefutable evidence that would expose the truth. Reluctantly, I made the decision to hire a private investigator. It felt like a betrayal in itself, a violation of the trust that had once existed between us. But I saw no other way. I contacted a discreet agency, explaining my situation, my suspicions. I provided them with details about Elena's activities, her frequent outings, her late-night calls. I tried to remain objective, to present the information without bias, but my voice trembled slightly as I spoke. The investigator, a seasoned professional, listened attentively, his expression neutral. He assured me that they would handle the matter with discretion and professionalism. He explained the process, the surveillance techniques they would use, the importance of maintaining confidentiality. I nodded, absorbing the information, my heart pounding in my chest. The next few weeks were agonizing. I waited anxiously for any updates, any information that would shed light on Elena's activities. I tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy, to act as if nothing was amiss, but it was a constant struggle. I felt like I was living a double life, pretending to be the loving husband while secretly harboring a deep and growing suspicion. I watched Elena, studied her every move, searching for any hint of guilt, any sign of betrayal. But she remained composed, her demeanor unchanged. She continued her routine, her social engagements, her late-night calls. She was either incredibly skilled at hiding her deception, or my suspicions were unfounded. Then, the day came when the investigator contacted me. He asked me to meet him at his office. I arrived, my hands clammy, my stomach churning with anticipation and dread. He led me into his office, a small, sparsely furnished room. He closed the door behind us and sat down at his desk. He opened a folder and began to speak, his voice calm and professional. He presented me with the evidence, photographs, recordings, detailed logs of Elena's activities. The truth, laid bare before me, was even more devastating than I could have imagined. Elena had been having multiple affairs, not just one but several. And the men she was seeing were not strangers, but people within our social circle, friends, acquaintances, people we had trusted. The betrayal cut deep like a physical blow. It shattered my illusions, destroyed my trust, and left me reeling in disbelief. The painting, I now knew, was a complete and utter fabrication. The investigator's words echoed in my mind, each revelation a hammer blow to my carefully constructed reality. The evidence was irrefutable, the details excruciatingly vivid. Elena, my wife, the woman I had loved and trusted, had been systematically deceiving me for years. The depth of her betrayal was staggering. It wasn't just the physical infidelity, but the emotional deception, the calculated lies, the sheer audacity of her actions. She had woven a web of deceit so intricate, so convincing, that I had been completely blind to it. The photographs were like daggers to my heart. Elena, radiant and smiling, in the arms of another man. Elena, whispering sweet nothings into the ear of a supposed friend. Elena, sharing intimate moments with someone I had considered a trusted colleague. Each image was a testament to her duplicity, a cruel mockery of the life we had built together. The recordings were even more devastating. Her voice, filled with affection and desire, speaking to these men, making promises, sharing secrets. Secrets that were never meant for my ears. The logs of her activities painted a picture of a woman leading a double life. Secret rendezvous, clandestine meetings, late-night phone calls. She had been living a lie, right under my nose, and I had been none the wiser. The world I thought I knew crumbled around me. The foundation of my life, my marriage, my trust in Elena, had been shattered into a million pieces. I felt a profound sense of loss, a grief so deep it threatened to consume me. But the grief was intertwined with a burning rage, a fury that pulsed through my veins. I had been humiliated, betrayed, made a fool of. The pain was unbearable, the anger overwhelming. I wanted to lash out, to scream, to break something. But I held myself in check. I knew that giving in to my emotions would only weaken me. I needed to stay calm, to think clearly, to plan my next move. I left the investigator's office in a daze, the weight of his revelations pressing down on me. I walked aimlessly through the city streets, my mind racing, my emotions in turmoil. I felt like a ghost, detached from the world around me. The familiar sights and sounds seemed distant, unreal. I was lost in a labyrinth of pain and betrayal, searching for a way out. The abyss of Elena's deception yawned before me, threatening to swallow me whole. I knew I had to find a way to climb out, to reclaim my life, to exact my revenge. But how? The question hung in the air, unanswered, a challenge I was determined to meet. The initial shock and despair gradually gave way to a cold, steely resolve. I would not be broken by this betrayal. I would not allow Elena and her lovers to walk away unscathed. They had shattered my world, and I would, in turn, shatter theirs. Revenge became my obsession, my sole focus. I spent hours brooding, replaying the investigator's findings in my mind, analyzing every detail, every photograph, every recording. The anger simmered within me, a constant fire fueling my desire for retribution. But I knew that a rash, impulsive act of revenge would be unsatisfying. It would be too quick, too clean. They deserved to suffer, to experience the same pain and humiliation they had inflicted upon me. I wanted them to pay not just for their actions but for their arrogance, their sense of entitlement, their belief that they could get away with it. I began to formulate a plan, a meticulously crafted strategy designed to dismantle their lives, piece by piece. I would not resort to physical violence. That was too crude, too predictable. My revenge would be more subtle, more insidious. I would use their own weaknesses against them, exploit their vulnerabilities, expose their secrets to the world. I started by gathering information. I delved into the lives of Elena's lovers, researching their backgrounds, their careers, their families. I scoured social media, hacked into their emails, intercepted their phone calls. I learned about their hidden insecurities, their secret vices, their carefully constructed facades. I discovered that each of them had something to lose, something they valued more than their illicit affair with Elena. Their reputations, their careers, their families, their social standing, these were the weapons I would use against them. I would turn their own lives into a battlefield, a stage for my carefully orchestrated revenge. The plan began to take shape in my mind, a complex web of interconnected actions, each designed to inflict maximum damage. I would not strike immediately. I would bide my time, patiently waiting for the right moment, the opportune moment to unleash my fury. I would become a puppet master, pulling the strings, manipulating events, orchestrating their downfall. The anticipation was both exhilarating and terrifying. I knew that embarking on this path would change me, transform me into someone I might not recognize. But the desire for revenge was too strong to resist. I was determined to see it through, no matter the cost. My office, once a sanctuary of productivity and ambition, transformed into a war room. The sleek glass walls, designed to inspire collaboration and transparency, now felt like the confines of a strategic command center. Spread across my desk were the fruits of my obsessive research. Files, photographs, printouts of emails, financial records, and relationship charts that mapped the intricate web of connections between Elena and her lovers. Each document was a piece of the puzzle, a clue to their vulnerabilities, their secrets, their deepest fears. I immersed myself in this world of information, becoming a detective, a strategist, a master manipulator. Sleep became a luxury I could barely afford, fueled by adrenaline and a burning desire for retribution. Days blurred into nights as I meticulously plotted my course of action. Each of Elena's lovers presented a unique challenge, requiring a tailored approach. There was Mark, the ambitious lawyer, whose career depended on his pristine reputation. There was David, the married politician, whose carefully cultivated image of family values masked a string of illicit affairs. And there was even Anton, my supposed friend, whose loyalty and trustworthiness had been nothing but a facade. For each of them, I crafted a specific plan, a carefully calibrated series of actions designed to exploit their weaknesses and bring about their downfall. I would use their own ambitions against them, their greed, their vanity, their desire for power and social status. I would turn their strengths into weaknesses, their successes into failures. I would expose their hypocrisy, their lies, their betrayals to the world. They would be stripped bare, their carefully constructed facades shattered, their lives reduced to rubble. The complexity of the plan was both exhilarating and daunting. It required precision, timing, and a deep understanding of human nature. I had to anticipate their reactions, predict their moves, and stay one step ahead. It was a high-stakes game with no room for error. But I was confident in my abilities. I had always been a master strategist, a calculated risk-taker. And now, fueled by a righteous anger and a thirst for vengeance, I was more determined than ever to succeed. The weight of responsibility was immense. I was not just playing with their lives, but with my own. I knew that this path, once embarked upon, would lead me to a dark and dangerous place. But I was willing to pay the price. I had been wronged, betrayed, humiliated, and I would have my revenge. My revenge began subtly, with whispers and insinuations, carefully planted seeds of doubt and discord. I leveraged my position within our social circle, using seemingly innocuous conversations to subtly manipulate perceptions and sow distrust. A casual remark about Mark's excessive work hours, hinting at a possible strain on his marriage, planted the seed of suspicion in his wife's mind. A carefully worded comment about David's frequent business trips raised eyebrows among his colleagues, casting a shadow over his carefully cultivated image. I used social media to my advantage, creating anonymous profiles to spread rumors and leak information. A seemingly harmless post about Anton's past financial troubles, amplified through strategic shares and comments, began to erode his credibility within our business circle. I watched as the seeds of doubt I had sown began to take root, growing into suspicion, mistrust, and eventually, open conflict. The carefully constructed facade of their lives began to crack, revealing the vulnerabilities beneath. The initial stages of my plan were met with a mixture of satisfaction and a growing sense of unease. It was exhilarating to see the first cracks appear in their carefully constructed worlds, to witness the beginnings of their downfall. But I also felt a twinge of guilt, a flicker of doubt about the path I had chosen. These were people I had known for years, people I had once considered friends. Was I justified in inflicting this pain upon them? Was I becoming the very thing I despised? I pushed these doubts aside, reminding myself of the pain and humiliation they had caused me. They had betrayed my trust, shattered my world. They deserved to suffer the consequences of their actions. My resolve hardened, my determination strengthened. I would not waver. I would see this through to the end. The first cracks were just the beginning. I knew that the real damage was yet to come. I had only just begun to play my hand. The game was afoot, and I was determined to win no matter the cost. Having sown the seeds of doubt, I began to tighten the web, strategically escalating the pressure on Elena's lovers. I exploited their vulnerabilities, leveraging their secrets and insecurities to orchestrate their downfall. For Mark, the ambitious lawyer, I anonymously leaked information about a past ethical violation to a rival firm, jeopardizing a crucial merger deal he was working on. His reputation, his most valuable asset, was tarnished, his career hanging in the balance. David, the politician, faced a different kind of exposure. I leaked evidence of his extramarital affairs to a local news outlet, carefully timing the release to coincide with his re-election campaign. The scandal erupted, shattering his carefully crafted image of family values and throwing his political career into turmoil. His wife, blindsided by the revelations, filed for divorce, further fueling the media frenzy. Anton, my former friend, proved to be the most challenging. He was shrewd and resourceful, with a network of connections that extended deep into the business world. But I had anticipated this, and I had prepared accordingly. I used my own influence to subtly undermine his business ventures, creating obstacles and delays that frustrated his efforts. I spread rumors about his questionable business practices, casting doubt on his integrity and trustworthiness. His investors, once eager to support his projects, began to withdraw their funding, leaving him financially vulnerable. As the web tightened, I watched with a mixture of satisfaction and a growing sense of detachment. The men who had betrayed me were now facing the consequences of their actions. Their lives were unraveling, their careers crumbling, their reputations tarnished. The pain they were experiencing was a reflection of my own, a twisted form of justice. But the satisfaction was fleeting, replaced by a growing emptiness. The more I manipulated their lives, the more I felt myself becoming disconnected from my own. I was losing myself in the pursuit of revenge, becoming a shadow of my former self. The web I had woven was intricate and complex, with each strand connected to the others. As the pressure mounted, I knew that the final confrontation with Elena was inevitable. But I was not ready yet. I needed to ensure that her lovers were completely destroyed, their lives irrevocably shattered, before I turned my attention to her. The final act of my revenge was still to come. My campaign of revenge, meticulously planned and executed, began to have unintended consequences. The fallout from the destruction of Elena's lovers spread like wildfire, impacting not only their lives but also the lives of those around them. Mark's wife, devastated by the revelation of his infidelity and the subsequent damage to his career, spiraled into depression. Their children, caught in the crossfire, suffered emotional trauma. Their once stable family life shattered. David's political downfall had far-reaching implications. His party, tarnished by the scandal, lost crucial support in the upcoming election. His colleagues, once eager to associate with him, distanced themselves, fearing guilt by association. His constituents, disillusioned and betrayed, felt the impact of his corrupt actions. Anton's financial ruin had a ripple effect on his employees and business partners. Projects were abandoned, investments lost, and jobs disappeared. The once thriving company he had built crumbled, leaving a trail of financial devastation in its wake. I watched these unintended consequences unfold with a growing sense of unease. My initial focus had been solely on Elena and her lovers, but now I realized that my actions had a wider impact, causing pain and suffering to innocent people. The guilt gnawed at me, a constant reminder of the collateral damage I had inflicted. Was this the justice I had sought? Was the pain I had caused proportionate to the pain I had endured? These questions haunted me, casting a shadow over my carefully orchestrated revenge. I had become so consumed by my desire for retribution that I had failed to consider the wider implications of my actions. The realization was a sobering one. I had set out to punish those who had wronged me, but in doing so, I had inadvertently hurt others. The line between justice and vengeance had become blurred, and I was no longer sure which side I was on. The weight of my actions pressed down on me, a heavy burden I could not escape. The initial thrill of orchestrating the downfall of Elena's lovers had faded, replaced by a gnawing emptiness. The satisfaction of seeing them suffer was fleeting, overshadowed by the growing realization of the collateral damage I had caused. The guilt and self-reproach were relentless, a constant weight on my conscience. Yet I couldn't bring myself to stop. The momentum of my revenge was too strong, the desire for retribution too deeply ingrained. I had crossed a point of no return, and there was no turning back. I was trapped in a cycle of destruction, driven by a force I could no longer control. I continued to monitor Elena's movements, tracking her every move, listening to her conversations. She remained oblivious to my knowledge of her affairs, her demeanor unchanged. She continued to live her life of deception, her laughter and smiles a constant reminder of her betrayal. The sight of her, so carefree and unburdened, fueled my anger, reinforcing my determination to see my plan through to the end. But the plan itself had become distorted, twisted by my own internal turmoil. The initial goal of targeted revenge had morphed into something darker, more destructive. I was no longer simply seeking to punish those who had wronged me. I was seeking to inflict pain, to cause suffering, to revel in their destruction. The line between justice and vengeance had vanished, replaced by a thirst for retribution that consumed me. I had become the very thing I despised, a manipulator, a destroyer, a bringer of pain. The realization was both terrifying and exhilarating. I was losing myself in the darkness, but the darkness also held a strange allure. I knew that the final confrontation with Elena was approaching, the climax of my carefully orchestrated plan. But I was no longer sure what I hoped to achieve. Would exposing her infidelity bring me closure? Would seeing her suffer ease my pain? Or would it simply leave me with a deeper sense of emptiness? A hollow victory in a war that had already consumed my soul? The world saw a different Alexander. A man seemingly unfazed by the turmoil surrounding him. I became a master of disguise, carefully concealing the darkness that consumed me. At work, I was the same driven, focused entrepreneur, making decisive decisions, closing deals, and inspiring confidence in my employees. In social settings, I was the charming and witty companion, engaging in light-hearted banter, offering support and advice to friends and acquaintances. Even with Elena, I maintained a facade of normalcy, playing the role of the loving husband, sharing meals, attending social events, and engaging in seemingly intimate conversations. But behind the mask, I was a different person. The guilt and self-reproach continued to gnaw at me, but I had learned to suppress them, to bury them deep within my subconscious. The anger and desire for revenge still burned, but they were now tempered by a cold, calculating detachment. I had become a master manipulator, adept at concealing my true intentions, playing the role that was expected of me. The deception was exhausting, a constant performance that required immense mental and emotional energy. But I couldn't afford to let my guard down. The stakes were too high, the consequences of exposure too dire. I had to maintain the illusion of sanity, the appearance of control, until the final act of my revenge was complete. The strain was taking its toll. Sleep became even more elusive, replaced by nightmares and restless nights. My appetite waned, and I lost weight, my once athletic frame becoming gaunt and haggard. My eyes, once bright and full of life, now held a haunted, distant look. But I couldn't allow these physical manifestations of my inner turmoil to show. I had to maintain the facade, the mask of sanity, until the very end. The final confrontation with Elena loomed large, the culmination of months of planning and manipulation. I knew that it would be the most difficult and dangerous part of my plan. But I was ready. I had prepared for every eventuality, anticipated every reaction. I would not falter. I would not waver. I would see this through to the bitter end, no matter the cost. While I maintained this facade of normalcy, the world around me continued to crumble. Mark, the lawyer, lost his job and was facing disciplinary action from the Bar Association. His wife, unable to cope with the betrayal and the loss of their financial security, had a breakdown and was hospitalized. David, the politician, withdrew from the election, his career in ruins. He was facing calls for his resignation and possible criminal charges. His wife, after filing for divorce, moved out of their home with their children, leaving him isolated and alone. Anton, my former friend, was fighting a losing battle. His business ventures had collapsed, his investors had abandoned him, and he was facing mounting debts. His reputation was in tatters, his once bright future now shrouded in uncertainty. He had become a pariah in the business community, shunned by those who had once sought his favor. The consequences of my actions were far-reaching and devastating. The web I had woven had ensnared not only Elena's lovers, but also their families, friends, and colleagues. The collateral damage was immense, a testament to the destructive power of revenge. Yet, amidst the chaos and destruction, Elena remained untouched. She continued her charade, oblivious to the storm that was gathering around her. Her laughter and smiles were a constant mockery of my pain, a reminder of her betrayal. The sight of her, so carefree and unburdened, fueled my anger, pushing me closer to the edge. I knew that the time for the final confrontation was approaching. The pieces were in place, the stage was set. I had meticulously planned every detail, anticipated every reaction. I would expose her infidelity to our entire social circle, stripping her of her carefully crafted image, her social standing, and her sense of belonging. She would be left isolated and alone, ostracized by those she had once considered her friends. The anticipation was both exhilarating and terrifying. I was about to unleash the final act of my revenge, the culmination of months of planning and manipulation. But I was also aware of the potential consequences. My actions would have far-reaching implications, not only for Elena but also for myself. I was about to cross a line, a point of no return, and I was not sure what awaited me on the other side. The annual charity gala, a hallmark of our social circle, was fast approaching. It was the perfect stage for my final act, the culmination of my meticulously planned revenge. The guest list was a who's who of the city's elite: politicians, business leaders, socialites, and philanthropists. Elena, always eager to be the center of attention, had been looking forward to the event for weeks, meticulously planning her attire and social strategy. She had no idea that the gala would be her undoing, the setting for her public humiliation. I had spent weeks orchestrating this moment, ensuring that every detail was in place. I had anonymously sent copies of the investigators' findings, the photographs, the recordings, the detailed logs of Elena's activities, to key members of our social circle, including those who had been complicit in her deception. I had also leaked the information to select members of the media, guaranteeing that the scandal would be widely publicized. The night of the gala arrived, and I watched as Elena, radiant in a designer gown, worked the room, her laughter echoing through the grand ballroom. She was the picture of confidence and grace, oblivious to the storm that was about to break. I waited patiently, observing her every move, savoring the anticipation. The moment was finally here. As the evening progressed, I subtly steered the conversation towards Elena, dropping hints, planting seeds of doubt. The guests, already privy to the information I had leaked, began to exchange knowing glances, their whispers growing louder. Elena, sensing a shift in the atmosphere, became uneasy, her smile faltering. The tension in the room was palpable, the air thick with anticipation. Then, at the carefully chosen moment, I made my move. I rose from my seat, addressing the crowd, my voice calm and measured. I spoke of betrayal, of deception, of the shattered trust that had once bound us together. I revealed Elena's infidelity, naming her lovers, exposing their secrets, and detailing their complicity in her deception. The silence in the room was deafening. All eyes turned to Elena, her face pale, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. The whispers erupted into a cacophony of accusations, condemnations, and expressions of disgust. Elena, stripped bare of her carefully crafted image, stood alone, the object of public scorn and humiliation. Her world, the world she had so carefully constructed, crumbled around her. The unveiling was complete. My revenge was finally realized. The aftermath of the gala was swift and brutal. Elena, ostracized and humiliated, became a social pariah. Her friends, once eager to bask in her reflected glory, now shunned her, distancing themselves from the scandal. Her invitations dried up, her phone calls went unanswered, and her social media accounts were flooded with hateful comments and threats. She was left isolated and alone, stripped of her social standing, her reputation in tatters. The media frenzy surrounding the scandal was relentless. Elena's infidelity was splashed across the tabloids, her name and face becoming synonymous with betrayal and deceit. The details of her affairs were dissected and analyzed, her every move scrutinized. She became the object of public ridicule, a cautionary tale of ambition and infidelity. The impact on our social circle was equally devastating. Trust was shattered, friendships broken, and alliances dissolved. The carefully constructed facade of our community, built on a foundation of shared values and mutual respect, crumbled under the weight of Elena's deception and my ruthless revenge. I watched the fallout unfold with a mixture of satisfaction and a growing sense of emptiness. My plan had worked. Elena and her lovers had been punished, their lives irrevocably altered. But the victory felt hollow, the satisfaction fleeting. The collateral damage was immense, the pain and suffering far-reaching. I had become an agent of destruction, leaving a trail of broken lives in my wake. The guilt and self-reproach were relentless, a constant reminder of the darkness I had embraced. I had sought justice, but I had found only vengeance. I had sought to heal my wounds, but I had only deepened them. The ashes of victory were bitter, a testament to the destructive power of revenge. I was left alone, surrounded by the ruins of my former life. My marriage was over, my friendships shattered, my social standing tarnished. The world I had known, the world I had so carefully constructed, was gone. And in its place was a wasteland of my own making.